Okay. Alrighty. Here we go. Hey. Well, here I am again. Okay, I'm going to do another section from this book, From a Grandfather's Heart. Okay. Memories for my grandchildren. And today is June 2nd, 2000, the year 2020. Okay, and I'm going to do this section right here, stories from school. So I'm only going to do the first half of it. I'm looking at different parts of the book, and I'm just going to do a section so it doesn't get too long. So I'm going to go ahead. I already kind of filled in some of the pieces right here in the middle, and so I'm just going to go ahead and read along with what I wrote. Sioux Day Basics. Okay, schools I attended. Well, I went to Malabar Street School from kindergarten through sixth grade in Los Angeles, California, and it's part of the LA Unified School District. Eastmont Junior High, back then it was a junior high school from 7th to 8th grade, and Sure High School for 9th to 12th grade. And those two are part of the Montebello Unified School District. Number of graduates in my high school class? I don't know. I really don't know. Never really thought to stop and take a look at how many students were there. What I wore to school? Well, back in that time, we didn't have uniforms. I don't know. I know when I was teaching, there was a time we didn't have uniforms. There was a time we did have uniforms. I don't know if you guys have uniforms. I know right now Dante's 5.5. He's pre-K, getting ready to be kindergarten, and Jade is in preschool. So I don't think Jade has a uniform. I think that Dante does. I know Mommy was buying some uniforms for you. So, well, we didn't have uniforms. I usually wore a pair of jeans or slacks and short sleeve shirts. I've always worn short sleeve shirts, very rarely long sleeves. I did let my hair grow long. It was, not exactly shoulder length, but kind of long, a lot longer than in high when I was in high school, and we wore bell bottoms in high school. So that was the fashion back then. Okay, things change over years, and we would look online and Google and look up high school kids, 1970s. That's pretty much what I wore back then. That was the style back then. How I got to and from school? I walked. I've always walked to school and from school. At Malabar, where we lived, we were just the second house from the school. So there was the school, there was the gate for the school, and then there was their neighbor's house, and then there was our house. But we were at the side of the school, so we had to walk up maybe half a block up the hill a little ways to get to the main entrance to get into the school. And then from our house, it was the opposite side of the school where kindergarten was. I remember that. And then the different classrooms. And then Malabar was kind of like on top of a hill, and so you had to walk down some steps to get down to the playing field. So I remember walking. Eastmont and Sure were a short walk away, maybe about 15 minutes, 20 minutes more or less. So yeah, they were a little bit of a walk. What I ate for lunch? Usually I took a sack lunch to school. Really didn't like though. I remember in elementary, I didn't really like the cafeteria food. So I always had a sack lunch. My mom always packed me a sack lunch in elementary school. So that was usually a sandwich. I know, Dante, you love your Lunchables, but we didn't have Lunchables back then. So it was a regular sandwich, two slices of bread, um, bologna and cheese, or ham and cheese, or ham bologna and cheese, with some mayonnaise in there. And they're usually white bread. That's what I remember eating when I was growing up. We had white bread. Didn't start having wheat bread until I was a lot older. And maybe a piece of fruit or some juice, or maybe I bought some milk at the school. I really can't remember that part, but I do remember pretty much every day taking lunch. I really didn't start buying um, in the cafeteria until I was probably in high school. And then even then, not all the time, just once in a while. Okay, favorite teachers. Best elementary school teacher. Well, that's easy. Miss Steele in my second grade. Here's why. My mom told me I came home from school one day and said, I want to be a teacher, just like Miss Steele. I remember that. I really don't remember her too much. I do remember this when I did my student teaching when I was at Cal State LA, and I was doing my student teaching. I had an opportunity to go back to Malabar and as a student teacher, and I was there for one session. Actually, it wasn't really doing my student teaching, but I was um, doing some helping or some. I think I was being mentored anyway. So I was in a class and I was doing something there, but I remember I was there at Malabar, and that's one of the first things I did because here I am a returning student, and I went back and I went into the office and I started asking, well, is this who the teachers were, and so Steele was there, and so I went and I introduced myself, and of course I said the same thing all you guys said, do you remember me? And she looked at me. She had absolutely no idea who I was. Here I was a young, in my early 20s. And so I told her, you're my teacher in second grade. And she just denied it. No, no, no way you're my student, no way. And I explained to her, and she stopped thinking, well, maybe her first year as a teacher. I had no idea. Her first year as a teacher, second grade, and she inspired me to become a teacher. Wow, I mean, that's awesome, I think. That's awesome. So, best middle school teacher, I could think of one lady, but I can't really remember her name. Honestly, I can't remember anything. Those only a couple of years I was there at Eastmont. I remember some things that happened, but not a whole lot. Best high school teacher, Mr. Rasmussen. His name comes to mind more. He was, I think, either a social studies or math teacher. I really can't remember. What I think the reason I remember him the most is he was a really nice guy. We all respected him. He was a chaperone for a group of students that went to Europe in the summer of 1974, and I was part of that group. And the only reason I went, it was not sponsored by Sure High School. His wife was a teacher. Mr. Rasmussen's wife was a teacher at Downey High School. And it was the Downey High School students that went, and it just so happened that they had room for a handful of extra students. And so Mr. Rasmussen just put it out there if anybody was interested, and I was interested, and I talked to my mom and dad, this is a life, a deal of a lifetime to be able to go to Europe for a month. And so that's what we did, and we can talk about that. That's an interesting story right there. Okay, next page. Best and worst subjects. My favorite classes in school, well, for me, math and history. I just love those two more than anything. Here's why. I've always been good at doing math, and I love reading and history, those two things. My least favorite class in school, PE. I got good grades, passing grades due to my attendance, because attendance is part of that. Other than that, honestly, I never was really good at any sports. I was more a bookworm than an athlete, so to speak. I really can't catch or throw or tumble or do most things. I can run, and not so well anymore because of my knees, but so much for that. How I would describe my grades? Good. I was B average in high school. I got some A's, got some C's, mostly B's, and all through school. As a matter of fact, when I was in fourth grade, fifth grade, I was in fifth grade. They had at Malabar Street School. Um, we had a different system. We had so we were, I'd say, for example, I was in fifth grade. It was 5A and 5B. So instead of just saying fifth grade, it was each semester. Back then it was a semester. So first semester was A, second semester was B. So there was a time, at that time, when they were shifting over because you could, nowadays, you start in September or August when school starts, and that's when the school year went. Back then, there were two times when school could start. You could start in the fall, and you could start in the spring. So if you start in the spring, you started around about February. So everything all depended upon when your birthday was. So I guess since my birthday's in March, I started school in February. I never thought of that until just right now. So anyway, so because of that, and they started shifting over, so that everybody started in the fall. So there was no more starting in February. Everybody started in fall. And so they came to my parents and they said, you know, because of my academics, I was doing so well in school, that I could skip a semester. So in sixth grade, instead of 6A and 6B, I just went straight to 6B. So I just had one semester of sixth grade, so I kind of skipped. So everybody else, all my brothers, they had an extra semester of whatever grade they were in. So imagine you're in first grade and thinking, okay, I did, you know, 1A and 1B. You got to take 1B all over again. You got to take that extra semester all over again. So I don't know. I don't think my brothers took that too kindly. But for me, I just kind of skipped a grade and only had one semester of sixth grade. And I only had a little bit of a challenge because I was second semester in sixth grade, and there were some things in first semester that were covered that I missed out on. And so, you know, the teacher had to make some allowances because there were some things that were taught that I didn't know, and they just had to move on. But I remember a little bit of that. Okay, after school activities. How I felt about homework and tests. I'm a bookworm, so I enjoy doing homework. I did a lot of reading. Matter of fact, when I started working, I bought, yeah, I put the wrong word, I bought a set of encyclopedias, Encyclopedia Britannica. So that was there at Grandma's house. I don't know if your mom or Auntie Grace remember that, but when we went to Grandma's house in that long little room in the back, they had a big old bookshelf and there was a set of encyclopedias. Well, I bought that set of encyclopedias. That's from 1979. 1979. It was dedicated to President Carter and Queen Elizabeth. I still remember that. And my brothers used it after me, and you know, my nephews and nieces used it for you know. Okay, in the evening, this is how I passed the time. Well, like everybody else, watch TV mostly. You know, we didn't have computers or internet, believe it or not, so or cable, so it was just regular TV. And you know, nowadays we have this little remote control. We really didn't have that, you know. So if I needed to change the channel, I needed to get up there and change it myself. So whatever was on TV, that was it. And a lot of times there was little arguments between my brothers and I as to which TV show we wanted to watch, especially if they came on at the same time. And with one TV, sometimes we might ask, because our grandmother lived with us, sometimes we might ask really nicely, please, 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 you know, and she might let us, you know, use her TV. But other than that, no, that's what we saw. So occasionally I might go out with a couple of friends and we might go to a show on a Friday or Saturday night. One of the things that I had a friend, his name was Jack, and sometimes we would go bowling. He liked to play bowling, or sometimes we go out and get something to eat. Farrell's restaurant was very popular at that time, up on Rosemead Boulevard, the city of Rosemead. Great place to go. It's kind of really sad to see that place all closed out now. And if you do a Google search, you might find some information on that. I was a member of these clubs or groups. No, I didn't join any clubs or groups in high school. You know, never was interested. And I had some of my friends who were, but myself, no, never did. Okay, school day memories. So here I wrote quite a bit. Okay, school day memories. A happy memory. Well, graduating from elementary school, I had to make a speech, and after the speech, I was able to hang out with some of my buddies in the classroom, while everybody else was outside. That was kind of cool because in the classroom there was a punch, you know, and cookies and different things like that. So we just kind of goofed around like kids do, you know, and probably had a little bit too many cookies or whatever. But well, if you're listening, you can hear everything else in the courtyard, the graduation. But you know, we kind of snuck out a little bit. And you know, a funny memory. Okay, so this is something you remember from fifth grade. So I'll just read what I wrote because I just wrote it right now. In fifth grade, somebody brought a bird to class. I don't remember what kind of bird, probably a parakeet or something, you know, a little bird that you keep in a cage. During lunch, the bird somehow got loose and was hiding in the window blinds. So imagine your classroom, there's a window, you know, right? So in an old school, they had window blinds, shades to keep like right behind me to keep the sun out. So window blinds. After lunch, we had a police officer come to the class to give us a talk. Okay, I really don't remember what the talk was about. Most likely, if you have a police officer coming in, he's probably talking about safety and things like that. So, police officer comes to class, and in the middle of the talk, the bird rattled the blinds, and the officer almost pulled out his gun to shoot the bird. I thought, oh, that's kind of a scary moment because for a police officer, that's the last thing you expect. All of a sudden the disturbance out there by the window, and then you pull out a gun and almost shoot something. But of course, I'm not saying who accidentally let the bird out when he went to the classroom early after lunch and then had to sneak out of the classroom down to the yard so he'd be the last one to get to class when the bell rang and nobody would find out. Um, yeah. So, yeah, that's okay. Anyway, a time that I got in trouble. Did I get in trouble for that? Well, believe it or not, I really got in trouble. One time in fifth grade, I was talking to a friend who was behind me. I was turned around talking to him, and I got in trouble by the teacher. I mean, well, back then, I know they can't do it now, but back then, you get in trouble, what they would do is, so I got called up. I had to go up to the principal, I mean, to the teacher, not the principal, to the teacher, and he had a ruler, and I had to stick out my hand and hold it out like that, and he just with the ruler. Okay, well, that's no fun. But it was surprising because I think that's the only time I ever got spanked with the ruler that I can remember. You know, I have some friends and they were up there more than once. Sometimes they had to get bend over and back in the day, back in the '60s, this is when this happened. The principal would, the teacher would tell you, okay, bend over, and you bend over, especially a guy, and he had like a ping pong paddle. That's what it looked like, a little ping pong paddle like that, and he just boom right there in your little tushy. So you can't do that now. You're in big trouble. Okay, picture days. I'm gonna leave that alone. Most likely we'll find something there. Let's see. Okay. Do I have? Okay, I'm going to go ahead to my. I get looking at the clock here. I got 2 minutes. I'm just going to read what I have here. What I was like as a teenager. I'm going to leave that blank for now. But I got 2 minutes here. My first job. My age at the time I started, I was a box boy at Johnson's Market. Johnson's Market's closed down. They closed in the 1990s. But I was a box boy at Johnson's Market. I started on Saturday, November 2, 1974. My senior year in high school. I was 16 years old. The reason I started work, my dad helped me get the job. He also worked at Johnson's as a meat cutter. I started working because I wanted to save some money for when I started going to college. Okay. My responsibilities, I bagged the groceries, I cleaned the check stands, I returned items back to the shelf. Those are called go backs. Anything, if people don't want something, they set it aside. Well, it's got to get back onto the shelf. I collected shopping carts from the parking lot. So they said shagging, you're shagging those parking lots. So, when you go to the market with your mom and dad and then you go back to the car and you see the shopping cart out there in the middle of the parking lot, well, it was my job to collect them. Now we have that little areas where you can go put them. Sometimes people do, sometimes people don't. So my job was to go out there and collect them and bring them all back in. What I learned from my job, how to be responsible, how to interact with customers, how to meet people. I'm a shy person. I have a hard time talking to people. And so I learned how to talk because I had to. People would ask me questions. Where is this item or where is that item? And I had to tell them, okay, it's in this aisle or that aisle, or, my bosses told me, walk them, whatever you're doing, stop what you're doing, take a minute, walk them and show them where it's at. Okay, that's how you learn. And then to have pride in a job well done, because a work ethic. My dad taught me a work ethic. You do your job, you do the best that you can, and you do it well. And then you'll be recognized and rewarded. And you need to remember that when you get your paycheck, It's not the company that gives you the paycheck. It's the customers, customer service. You're doing it for the customers. Okay. Oh, there's a little buzzer right there. Okay, so it's 20 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to stop right here. Yeah, I see them. And then I'll continue this next time. Okay.